Claude has just released something called Skills, and if you are building AI automations or running any kind of service business, this might be the most practical update that they have shipped all year. And in this video, I am going to be walking you guys through what these Claude skills actually are, and I'm going to be showing you the capabilities where we will set one up together, and I'm going to be comparing this to Claude's projects and MCPs so that you can understand when to use what. And then we will be diving into some API examples because that is where this gets really powerful for business applications. If that all sounds good, then let's just get right into it. So what are Claude skills? Well, at high level, Anthropic has just gave Claude the ability to specialize in specific tasks with really high consistency. So you can think of it like this. Before, Claude, it was just a generalist that could help you with a lot of different things, but the quality, it really varied depending on how you actually prompted it. But now with skills, you can give Claude expert level frameworks for very specific tasks, and it is going to execute those tasks the same way every single time. Now, here's why this matters, is because consistency, this is the thing that kills most people when they try to use AI for real work, where you will get great output one day, and then the next day with basically the same prompt, you can be getting total garbage. Now, skills, it solves that problem just by giving Claude a very structured framework to operate within. Now, let's talk about what we're actually going to be covering in this video. So first, I'm just going to be showing you the core capabilities of Claude skills and then what they can actually do. Then from there, we're going to be walking through using one of the pre-built skills so that you can see how this works in practice. After that, we'll just go through the setup process for creating your own custom skill because that is where the real power actually is. And I'm going to be comparing this to Claude projects and MCPs because I know a lot of you are confused about when to use what, and it is confusing in itself. And then finally, we'll just look at some API examples because if you're building automations for clients or just using them for yourself or your business, that is where this becomes a real practical tool to use. So let's begin by starting with what Claude skills actually do. Now, Anthropic, they just ship this with a bunch of pre-built skills out of the box. So you've got skills for creating Word documents, PowerPoint presentations, and even Excel spreadsheets and PDFs. And these aren't just basic file creation either. These skills, they have really sophisticated formatting rules, they understand document structure, and they can handle complex layouts, all of that. But here's what makes this different from just using Claude normally, is that these skills, they have the entire framework baked in. So when you use the PowerPoint skill, it knows exactly how to structure slides. It knows how to balance the text and the visuals. It knows what makes a good presentation flow. And you're not relying on Claude to remember all of that context every single time that you make a request. The other thing that really is important to understand is that you can build your own custom skills. So if you have a specific document format that you use all the time, or a specific analyst process, or just a specific way that you structure proposals, you can turn that into a skill. And once it is a skill, anyone on your team can use it and get the same output quality every single time. By the way, if you guys are looking to learn more in-depth dives into things like this on top of AI news, building automations, or running an AI agency, and you want to connect with other people doing the same exact thing, I've got a completely free school community with over 14,000 members. We share workflows, we troubleshoot problems together, we do weekly calls. It's honestly just a great place to learn all of this stuff. Link is down below in the description. Again, it's completely free to join. So before we actually get started on how to actually use this, let me show you guys just a few different examples that I have been using it for. So for our company, we go through a lot of discovery calls where we have to thus create proposals to our potential clients or prospects, I should be saying. So in this example, what we have done where we have used skills is I have taken our Fireflies meeting and I have just essentially taken the entire transcript. I have uploaded it into Claude, where I say, I need you to use the expiration proposal skill and create a proposal for me from this. And what it's going to do is it is going to come up with a proposal. Here is the PDF where we can scroll down. We can see the entire proposal, exactly how we would normally be making it. But every single time that it makes these skills, it's never going to switch up. We can provide it with a few different adjustments or a few different pieces of language just to prompt it a little bit differently if we want to make any adjustments. But from here, what we're actually able to do is download this. But later on in the video, I'll be showing you guys how you can automatically take these documents where it's just going to be using an API. So every time our meeting ends, it is going to be creating these proposals using Claude's skill for us. Now, beyond this, if we close this out, I now asked it to use another skill. I said, okay, can you now create a pitch deck using my skill that you have on this? From here, it's going to create the title slide, the challenges, the current workflows, the solutions. And if we scroll down to the bottom, we will see that it was able to create this pitch deck. If we load it up, you guys will notice that it is a PowerPoint whenever this loads in. I think we had quite a few slides. Okay, as you guys can see, we have bankruptcy pleadings automation, and this is for the particular law firm that we just had a meeting with. And we could scroll down. You can see there's some formatting issues. These are a little bit too close, and the slide is completely empty. So there's some tweaks where I will have to make to this. There's some errors within this as well, but you guys get the idea. I was automatically able to create that proposal from this entire thing. So what I can do from here is download this, add it to my drive, send it off. Obviously, I want to make some more tweaks. So with this being said, there's a lot more skills that you guys can be using, and we will be diving into way more practical examples that you can be using for yourself. But to actually get started building this out and using it for yourself, all you want to do is go into the bottom left, go into your settings, and then from here, we will want to go into our capabilities, scroll down. You will want to make sure that you are enabling the code execution and file creation. This is going to allow you to actually utilize the skills. And then from here, we only have 2 skills that we are using. So that is the pitch deck generator that I was just showcasing and the expiration proposal generator. But as I mentioned earlier in the introduction, that Claude has created some pre-made skills that you can be using yourself. So they have the skill creator, Slack GIF creator, theme factory, MCP builder, internal communications, so on and so forth. But what we're going to be focusing on is how to actually create your custom skill like I have done with these 2 skills right here. So before we actually walk through creating your custom skills, I do want to emphasize a few different things. That a Claude skill, it's essentially just a specially formatted markdown file inside of a folder. And this is where you upload the whole thing as a zip file. So the structure, it actually is really simple once you understand it. For me, it was a little overwhelming and hard to grasp it at the beginning. But at the most basic level, you just need a folder with your skill name. And inside that folder, you need a file called SKILL.md. That is it for simple skills. But if you really need your skill to execute any code, like processing data, manipulating files, or running any calculations, you can also include Python files that Claude can run. Now, here's the thing. You do not need to be a developer. I just want to preface that before. I'm not a developer myself or hardly consider myself technical. You can actually use any AI tool, just like you use for anything else, to help you build these files. I personally used Windsurf, but you can use Cursor, you can use ChatGPT, you can use Claude itself. You can use any other LLM or IDE to help you write the skill and any code that you need. But the key is just understanding the structure and when you actually need what. So there's going to be 2 types of skills. There's going to be markdown only versus code enabled. And let me just explain the difference between these 2 approaches because it is very important. So markdown only skills are just for tasks where Claude needs instructions on how to format and structure content. So these are perfect for things like creating formatted documents like proposals or reports, presentations. Also, structuring information in a very specific way. Beyond that, it can generate content following a template or organizing data into a predefined format. Now, my 2 skills that I have already touched on a little bit for our business at Reprise is the exploration proposal generator and the pitch deck generator. And these are both markdown only skills where they do not need to run any code. They just need Claude to essentially follow a very specific instruction or list of instructions about how to structure any format of the output. Now, code-enabled skills, these are just for tasks where Claude needs to actually process data or perform any sort of calculations or manipulate files programmatically. And these are perfect for things like analyzing CSV files and generating visualizations, processing images or PDFs, running complex calculations or just data transformations, and even interacting with the systems or databases and creating any charts, graphs, or any other visualizations for data. Now, for example, if I wanted to be building a skill that analyzes financial data from a CSV and creates charts, I would just need a Python file like analyze py that actually processes the data and generates the visualizations. So here's when you should be using Python files in your skills. And my rule of thumb is that if Claude can accomplish the task just by following instructions and formatting text, then just only use a markdown only file. And if Claude maybe needs to execute code to accomplish the task, just add Python files. My skills in particular that I were using, they did not need any of this because they're purely just structuring and formatting text-based content. And Claude already knows how to format Markdown, so I would just have to tell it exactly what structure that I want. Let me just show you guys exactly what this looks like by walking through the 2 custom skills that I had built for my agency. So the first one, this is just called Expiration Proposal Generator. And the second one, this is going to be called the Pitch Deck Generator. And these are just the 2 documents that I create after basically every single client call. So automating this this can probably save me, I don't know, maybe 2 hours every single week based on how many calls that we actually have and proposals that we are sending out. Now, every single skill file, it starts with a YAML header at the very top, as you guys can see up here. And this is going to be non-negotiable. So if you do not format this correctly, then Claude, it is just going to reject your skill when you actually try to upload it, and nothing is going to be working for you. Now, the YAML header, it just looks like this, where you have your skill name here. So I have my expiration proposal generator, obviously, and then you have a description. So just some clear description of what the skill does and when you should be using it. Now, after the description, we just make sure to have 3 dashes down at the bottom and also up at the top right here. That is going to be it. Also, the name and the description, it should be lowercase. And if you guys are going to try to use spaces, just use dashes or M dashes instead. Now, it's going to be the same exact thing for my pitch deck generator. It's going to follow the same exact structure. So I'm just going to be focusing on this expiration proposal generator file. And you guys can be following this as your approach or methodology for building any other MD file from here on out. So after the YAML header, the first section that you want is just a purpose section. So this is where you explain at a very high level what this skill is designed to do. So you want to keep it to 1 to maybe 2 sentences. And here's what mine looks like for the expiration proposal generator. So I just say convert a meeting transcript or client discovery notes into a polished expiration phase agreement in the exact structure and tone of Apprise AI's proposal format. And the output should look like a complete client-facing document ready to send with headers or headings, sections, and consistent formatting. So you notice how I am being very specific about the format that I actually want and the quality level. I'm just saying polished, exact structure, client-facing document, ready to send. I'm not leaving anything ambiguous. And then we have down here is the process section. And this is just where you get very detailed about the step-by-step process that Claude should be following. And I mean very detailed. So do not assume that Claude's going to know what you want. You have to be spelling it out. And here's what this process section looks like in my proposal. I just say read the uploaded transcript carefully and identify client name, company, and key stakeholders, main business challenges and context, so on and so forth. So I'm being very specific about the directions and exactly what I want to be getting out of it. Now, this last point is really important. I do not want Claude asking me any follow-up questions. I want it to work with what it has and infer the rest. And that is what makes the skill very useful for automation. Now, if you had Python files, you'd reference them in this process section. So for example, within like step 4, you can just be saying run analyze.py, which is another file you guys would have to create to process the CSV data and generate visualizations. Next up is the output structure. Now, this is the most important part of your skill file. So this is just where you define exactly what the output should be looking like. And I mean exactly so. Every heading, every section, the order of everything. And here is the portion of what mine looks like for the proposal generator. So we have the header, and then we have, you could just insert your project or department name. We have the client information, the client name of the company, primary context. So just what I want it to actually be looking like. Then we have the situation appraisal part. So this is going to be describing the company profile, current systems, and so on and so forth. So I've got sections for like what is the expiration, what we're validating, deliverables that you'll receive, go or no-go, decision criteria, client responsibilities, so much more. Now, each of these sections, they have to be very specific instructions about what should be included and how it should be formatted. And this level of details is what gives you consistent outputs every single time. So Claude isn't guessing what should be included. It knows exactly what the structure should look like every single time. And then lastly, what we have is the output constraints down at the bottom. So this is where you just tell Claude what not to do. And this is really important because Claude has some default behaviors that you might not want. So here's what mine looks like. I'm just saying like output only markdown, do not include system, tool, or assistant meta messages, do not wrap the proposal in a code block or use triple backticks, and a few more things. The second point that we were mentioning, very crucial. So by default, Claude sometimes wants to wrap outputs in code blocks. I do not want that. I want clean markdown that I can copy directly into a document. So I explicitly tell it not to do that. So this next piece, this is just how we're going to be uploading everything into Claude essentially. So if you guys do have any issues at all, just ask Windsurf or Cursor, whatever IDE that you're using, to just create the zip, create the MD file so that you can upload it directly into Claude Skills. It would have the capabilities to search up, what the format has to be, everything. So beyond that, if you guys want to get this entire example of what I am using right here, an MD file, the zip file, you can get it in my Skull community. I'll be uploading it there. But beyond that, use Windsurf or whatever ID if you do not know what you are doing. Just ask it to create these zip files. But here is what the structure has to look like. So we have the zip file, and then we have the exploration proposal generator folder, and then the SKILL.md, and then the analyze.py file, only if that is needed for writing code and everything. So here's what it looks like for me. So I have the zip file, and then I have these folders as well. So inside of the exploration proposal generator, we just have the SKILL.md. And what we are actually going to be doing is just essentially grabbing this zip file, dragging it straight into Claude, and it is going to look a little bit something like this. If we come into our Claude project, you guys can see we have our pitch deck generator and the exploration proposal generator, and now we can actually start using it so long as you have enabled this feature. So that is essentially how you guys can actually upload and create your own custom skills, because you're not going to just want to be using the predefined or pre-created templates that Claude has created you. In this next piece, this is just where I'm going to be cleaning up any confusion, because I know you guys are probably wondering, like, we have these Claude projects, we already have MCP. What is the difference? When do I need to use what, or what's going to be best for my particular use cases? That would be a very great question if you are asking that right now. So let me just break this down for you guys, because each one is solving different problems. So Claude projects, these are just for giving Claude very persistent context over multiple different conversations. So if you're working on these big projects and you need Claude to remember specific details, specific files, specific instructions across multiple different chats, that is when you are going to want to be using these projects. So you can think of projects as giving Claude a very long-term memory about a very specific area of your work or whatever department you are discussing. MCP, also known as Model Context Protocol, this is just about connecting Claude to external data sources and tools. So if you need Claude to access your company's database or just pull information from an API or maybe interact with other software, that is when you are going to be using MCP. So more or less, MCP is just going to be the bridge between Claude and your tech stack. Now, Claude skills, as I mentioned earlier, these are just about task specialization and consistency. So when you have a specific type of output that you needs to create over and over again, and you need that output to be high quality, consistent every single time, well, that is when you are going to want to be using these skills. So skills are just about creating repeatable processes with guaranteed quality. So here's essentially just how I think about it, or how I have been thinking about it, and when to use each one. So if you're working on a long-term project and you need Claudes to remember context across multiple different conversations, just use projects. And if you need Claudes to pull data from external sources or interact with your software stack, then use MCP. And if you need Claude to be executing a specific task the same way every single time with high quality, use skills. And here's the thing, like, you can use all three together. So you can have a Claude project that is going to be using MCP to pull client data from your CRM maybe, and then use a custom skill to generate proposals based on that data. So they're complementary tools, not just competing options that you have to decide one or the other. So to give you guys a very practical example from my business, like, I have got a Claude project set up for my agency work. And inside that project, I've got MCP connected to my calendar so that Claude can see my availability and my meeting notes. And then I have got a custom skill for generating proposals and creating pitch decks. So when I finish a client call, Claude then has context from the project, and it can access my notes through MCP, and then it can use the skill to create a consistently formatted proposal. If you guys want to see how I actually set that up, then let me know down in the comments, and I'll be happy to create a video on that as well. So more or less, we just have all three of these things working together. And with that being said, this is naturally leading into API use. So to talk a little bit about this side of things, because if you're building automations for clients or you're just trying to scale your business, this is where Claude Skills becomes a real game changer for you. So when you are working with the Anthropic API, you can now call specific skills as part of your automation workflow. So this just means that you can create specialized endpoints in your applications that are more or less designed to handle very specific tasks with extremely high quality. And here's why this matters, is because every time that you automate, let's say, proposal generation for a client, you'd have to write a really detailed prompt every single time, and you'd have to just to hope that Claude interpreted it correctly. Sometimes you would get great outputs, sometimes you get mediocre ones. Now you can just create a custom skill for that exact proposal format, and every time that you hit that endpoint, you know exactly what you're going to be getting. So for our company, again, we do a lot of discovery calls with potential prospects, and after each call, I may need to send over an exploration proposal. And that proposal, it needs to have a specific format, a specific tone, a specific amount of sections, all of that. And before Skills, I was just either doing all this manually or just using a template that I had to customize heavily. But now what I've set up is just an automation inside of N8N that just triggers whenever a new meeting recording gets uploaded to my Google Drive. And then that recording, it gets sent to a transcription service. And then that transcript, it gets sent to Claude through the API with my expiration proposal skill attached. So Claude, it's going to process the transcript and then extract all the relevant information and generate a fully formatted proposal document. And that document, it just gets saved to Google Drive, and then the email automatically goes out to the prospect. Of course, we have a human in the loop feature where it's just asking me if this looks good or not, and I'll add any tweaks if need be. And the whole thing, it mostly runs without me having to touch it, and the quality, it's very consistent from what I have been seeing thus far. Now, really quick, I just wanted to mention before we continue that if you are looking to start and grow your own AI automation agency to maybe set things up like this for businesses or a range of other things, then I am running our 3-day AI agency challenge where we just literally walk you through building your first automation system, setting up your offer, and getting your first clients. It's $47, super practical, no fluff. You'll build live systems that actually drive leverage for businesses and actually sell. And you can get access to some of the templates of the build so that you can spin up demos and systems in minutes. And we've had people book in their first sales calls just within days of going through it. So link is down below in the description. This is honestly the fastest way to get launch ready with an AI automation business. And one of the last pieces I wanted to cover is just practical use cases. So practical ways that you can actually be using skills in a business environment. So I want to give you some ideas that you can actually implement. So first off, you can consider client deliverables. So if you were doing consulting work and creating the same types of documents repeatedly, like strategy decks, audit reports, or SOPs, you can build skills for each document type and generate them on demand with client-specific information, which just means that you can take on more clients without having to sacrifice quality. Second, it can be internal documentation where you can just create skills that takes meeting notes or Slack conversations and turns them into proper documentation in your company's format, solving the problem that most companies have terrible internal documentation just because nobody wants to spend the time writing them. Third, you can consider content creation at scale where you're building skills for different content formats like blog posts, social media content, email sequences, or even just video scripts with specific formatting and tone and guidelines backed in. So you're not having to start from scratch every single time. Fourth, we can consider data analysis and reporting even. So if you're doing any data work for clients, you can build skills that know exactly how to analyze specific types of data and present it in a specific format, just like having specific skills for financial analysis or marketing performance reports or any operations dashboards. And here's what's really powerful about this is that once you have got these skills built, you can connect them to your automation platform and then have them run automatically all inside of N8N combined with Claude. So you can have a system where every Monday morning, a skill is going to pull data from your client's systems and then analyze it and generate a formatted report that can get emailed to them all automatically. So just to wrap things up, these skills, they are a massive unlock for anyone running a business that involves creating documents, reports, proposals, or any kind of structured output. And the pre-built skills, they're great for common tasks, but the real power, it comes from building your specific work. So if you are competing against people who are using this and you're not, you will be left behind because they are going to be able to deliver higher quality work faster than you can while spending less time on it. Not that it's going to make a difference right away, but this leverage, it compounds over time. So go try it out. Let me know in the comments how you guys are going to be using it for yourself. And if you are serious about building an AI automation business, whether you're just getting started or you're trying to scale, go check that out. It's the fastest way to get everything set up and start having real conversations with real clients. And if you guys got value from this video, go ahead and subscribe, drop a comment, and let me know what skill you're going to be building first. And of course, join the SKILL community if you want to connect with other people doing this stuff. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.